only speak on medicine and what I've been through. There are many routes, many careers, many things that anyone can do that all require hard work, but at least I can speak on how I got there and at least what it takes from my perspective. Um, I guess from way back, I immigrated. Well, my parents immigrated, and I had no choice. We moved to initially Kew Gardens and Forest Hills. I went to Louis Armstrong Middle School, if anybody knows. I played the clarinet, haven't played in like 10 years. Then went to Forest Hills High School. Actually did the law program and the Carl Sagan science program. Flip flop, thought I was going to be a lawyer. Um, and then went to Hunter. I mean, that's like the gist of it initially. Forest Hills High School was kind of just getting my feet wet and all the different career opportunities that are out there. I think with COVID, it makes it a lot more difficult with the extracurricular activities. It's pretty hard. But we used to have our mock trial and moot courts for law. We used to have our volunteering done at Forest Hills Hospital, I remember, all of which were just me trying to see where I fit in. Uh, at, at least in high school, I do recommend everybody to, no matter what, it's a game that you need to play no matter what career you go into. So initially you always want to be the top of the top, in the sense you want to have your grades and you want to have people around you love you and like you. I think that's what's most important. Grades are super important. So whether if you want to be a doctor, you still got to do well in English, which I truthfully hate, but I still did very well in English. So every subject that you partake in, you want to be the best at it. So that was high school. And SAT studies, I went to initially Kaplan. Didn't really like it as much initially, especially for the SATs, but loved it for the Mcat. We'll get into that later. But did Queller prep for the SATs that have really helped me. God, it feels like so long ago, but it was fantastic. So took the SATs, applied to colleges. I went to Hunter College because they're the ones that gave me a full scholarship. Didn't really know much. I just knew that it was a science school and that you can get into med school from it. If you guys do have questions, you could always put in the chat box. You always feel free to interrupt me. I definitely don't mind. My SAT score, it was 13 something. I don't remember. It was
I
13
could probably
something.
look it up. I have records. Guys, give me a day. Go ahead.
Yeah, 13. I think initially I was 1170. And then I don't know. So it's something somewhere around that. I wasn't a perfect 1600 SAT score, absolutely not. I did fantastic in math and I did terrible in English, and together
But
it came
but
out.
you test prep. So just he was okay. He was a little above average, right? He did test prep. He did tutoring, and he had a good work
Yeah,
ethic. So remember,
absolutely.
okay, remember that.
Yeah, my average in high school was Forest Hills. I mean, you know how everything gets weighted higher, but I graduated with a 99. Yeah, high school I graduated with 99. So yeah, so you studied, work hard. I did kind of everything, got my feet wet, and I went to college. I applied to just two colleges. One because I truly didn't know where to go, but I was always worried financially that thinking about graduate school, that it was going to be super expensive. And so I really wanted to focus financially. And that's not always the right answer. I'm not saying that's the right answer. It's just my journey and how I got there. How did I study? Akib, that is a loaded question. Everyone has their way to study. For me, I think it's important to find the right group of people to surround you, those that'll push you. And I always surrounded myself with people that I know are only going to try to make me better, in a sense, not to make myself feel smarter, but if anything, to make myself feel like, wow, look how much they know, I got to be better. So I think it was really about the people I worked with. And at some point, there's nothing surprising about it. You just need to sit down and read and teach it back to yourself. So that's kind of a couple of things. But then, Queller helped me with her ways, flashcards. There's a bunch. There's a bunch. But everyone finds their own way. It's just a commitment. I'll talk about AP classes when it comes to like the AP classes, college to start off your medical career, so and specific program hunters. So let me finish with my story, and then I'll get into the AP classes and all that.
Okay. could answer all the questions maybe a little more at the end. Before we do that, can you elaborate a little bit more about what you're saying about surrounding yourself with the circle? Just because if you could just touch on that and then keep moving on, and we'll answer more of the questions later.
Sure. The circle is huge. You want people that elevate you. So I was never the one that everyone knew in high school, and I'm completely fine with that. I was the one that had like 3, 4 solid friends. If I was in my physics class, I'd have my physics friends and all that whatnot. And we would sit together and we would study. There was times we'd go to the public library on 71st. There were times we'd go to my house or a friend's house. Sounds pretty corny, but literally that's what we did. And then we like tested each other. It was just a mutual relationship. Everyone had goals to be great. So I think that's what we did. So that's when it comes to, you want to surround yourself with people who are going to make you better, and not make you feel like, oh, you know everything, because there's always someone that's better than you in whatever thing you go into, and you got to understand that and be like, okay, so I have to be better myself too. So that was high school. So Forest Hills High School. I got into Hunter College. I applied for the Macaulay program. I did not get the Macaulay, but they gave me a full ride either way. So it's called the Jenny Hunter program. So I got a full scholarship on that sense, and that really helped me for a CUNY system, because whenever you have a scholarship to any CUNY, you actually select your classes first, which makes navigating the CUNY system a lot better. So that was, and I did a biochem major and a math minor. And so now we'll start talking about the logistics and whatnot. So in high school, AP classes that I took, it was all the science classes, so bio, chem, physics. I did AP Calc and I did AP Statistics. All of those classes I did anywhere between the 3, 4, and 5. Do they matter doing AP classes in high school? Absolutely. Not because they're going to help you get into med school. No, whichever medical school that you apply into, you need to take those classes from college. So you're required to take a year of physics, a year of bio, a year of orgo, a year of general chemistry, a year of math, all in college, no matter, even if you did AP Physics. So even if you got a 5 in AP Physics, you still need to take physics in college and have that used to get into med school. The reason why I think it's super important to do AP Physics is because I can't imagine doing physics in college and all of a sudden, like, and never having any AP Physics background. So I came into those classes already being prepped and already knowing like most of the formulas, and whatnot. So I think for me, knowing those AP or just being in those classes was super important. Now, if you fail an AP class, it's not something you have to show. It's not something that's going to let you get into medical school. But I think taking those AP courses, getting yourself prepped for college is super important, because all of your college grades is what are just a little part of what's going to help you get into med school. It doesn't matter how many APs you take. That really doesn't matter. It's just more to prepare you to take the next step, which is college. I think the common theme I want everyone to think about is not the end goal, right? The end goal is I'm a physician, and that's great, but it's like little steps throughout the process. You got to set yourself up so your next step is easier. Set yourself up, and you got to keep going. So my AP courses helped me do better in college, which then helped me get better grades. Therefore, I was a better applicant for med school. College itself, Hunter College, I think was great. I think it's difficult being that it's a CUNY system. A lot of people, unfortunately, who had the aspirations to go into medical school didn't make it. I mean, for example, we have our biology course that everyone starts in, and like 50% just fail it, and your majority of the time your medical career is over. So that's why it's very important. I mean, that's just going to be blunt about it. Your grades are super important. People usually range from a 3.6 to a 4.0. That's just the range. I'm not saying that's everyone to get into med school. You really want to be an A- or above. And then come all your science courses that you need to take. So all the science courses, now they require also psychology, sociology courses. They require math courses and English courses. So like writing. So for example, like Harvard wants you to have a year in like writing, or I don't know what they call it, but basically, it's like I did a Black African women writers course. I actually learned a lot of it, and you never know because it actually became very useful when I talk with my patients. So like you never know, but you need to be broad. You need to do well in many different things. So the medical school application is the best way to see how you're going to set yourself up to get into medical school. And this is where a lot of thought needs to come into. So, for example, you have grades. So, the way you apply to med school is you send in your application. And I'm going to tell you because I interviewed medical students when I was in med school. So, what they first do is first they break you down by your grades. That's just what it is. So for example, they take everyone who got a 3.7 and above, and they put them through the first filter. Everyone who got below, that's it, gone. Doesn't matter. You don't even get a second look. Then they take your Mcat score. Let's say they have a minimum of, I don't know, 505, for example. They take everyone below that, throw them out from that pile, gone. And then they get smaller and smaller and smaller because thousands of people apply to their schools and they have to break it down. And when they finally get to a reasonable number, then they read your application. So that's why you can't even show how good of a student you are until until you have the grades just to get past the filter system. So that's why our grades, and for me it was Queller Prep, it was super important. It was learning how to study, how to get good grades, and at least set yourself up for that. The MCAT is probably one of the hardest tests that I've ever taken. I think that we say in high school SAT is really hard, then you take the next step, you're like, wow, the MCAT is difficult. Then in med school is step one, step two, and whatnot. So every school that I went to, you have your one test that's going to be pretty intense. Just a quick answer: why did I minor in math? Because it was easier. If my minor included, I needed 3 courses in mathematics. I need 2 of those courses to get into med school, so it was just much easier to go into. It was just easier to satisfy my requirement for graduation as well as satisfy my requirement to get into medical school. So other than your grades, so MCAT and your GPA, then comes your rest of your application. And this is where I encourage everyone, especially with COVID ending, to get out there and experience the world, because applying into med school is a hell of a commitment, and you really want to make sure you're going into medicine for the right reasons. If you're thinking about the money and the glam, you're in for a rude awakening. This is a long process. You don't get paid for a very, very long time, and it's a lot of work. And if you fail, you still owe those loans and you get kicked out. So it's not, oh, I just got into med school. That's not the way it works. Or I just became a doctor. It's not, you're constantly learning and getting better. So don't go in for those reasons. So in college, you want to find the opportunities to volunteer, to work with physicians, either in the private setting, in the hospital, do research. Those are all important things for you to get out there. And it doesn't mean you only have to do it in medicine. I have a lot of people who were engineers before they applied. They were nurses, they were pilots. We have people coming from the Air Force. So you just need to be out there. You can't just be a bookworm, because that's not what medicine is. You can learn so much from a book and you can get the best grades, but if you cannot explain complex complex cases, complex diagnoses with a patient in simple, plain language, you're not going to do good. It's important to know how to talk. It's to connect, and that's something you learn through experience. And it's very difficult to teach someone unless you go out there and you learn and you meet with people and you socialize. And again, I know COVID kind of puts a hamper on that a little bit, but the opportunities are there in college. So that's important. So it's a balance of grades, it's a balance of experience, and it's also a balance of having the people around you. Your letters of recommendations go a long way, whether it's from high school to college, college to med school to residency. All different things along the way that you need to be aware of. So for me, I finished Hunter College at the end of my 3rd year of Hunter College. I took the MCAT. I applied in the summer of my 3rd year of Hunter College. And in my 4th year of Hunter College, as I'm finishing my requirements for my majors, I was already interviewing for med schools. Some people take a year off, so they take their MCAT at the end of their 4th year. And then in the 5th year, when they've already graduated, they can do their interviews. Sometimes they just need that extra time to study for the exam, but it doesn't matter. Um, I was Carl Sagan in high school. Yes, Carl Sagan, and I did the law program as well. I did both. So where was I getting into med school, right. So I took the MCAT. I applied kind of broadly to New York City program, basically the whole Upper East Side. That's where I wanted to be. I got into multiple medical schools, and I ended up going to University of Buffalo. So I did my medical school there, and that's a 4-year program. Many med schools follow a similar type of trend. They do first 2 years, which is like book study with a little bit of clinical work. Last 2 years are heavy clinical work and less book study, but still exams in the process. And there's a lot of exams there and whatnot that, if you have those questions and if you're closer to the med school process or in med school or whatever, you could always reach out and we could discuss that. But we'll kind of limit that to another time in a conversation. I finished my med school in Buffalo. I took the step exams, which are basically our MCATs of med school, and then I got into LIJ and Northwell. So I work in LIJ Hospital right now and North Shore Hospital, 2 systems out on Long Island, for OBGYN. It's a 4-year residency program. I'm starting my 3rd year right now. And then I plan on doing a fellowship in minimally invasive surgery. So that's another 2 years on top of that. So just to show you the timeline, right? You can't really speak about getting into med school without understanding that you finish high school, 4 years of college minimum, 4 years of med school minimum. If you just do a MD degree, then it's at least anywhere between 3 to 7 years of post medical school training before you would say that I'm a fully certified whatever. When you get your MD, when you finish med school, that makes you a doctor. You do your residency to become specialized, and you do your fellowship to become subspecialized. So that's how it works. And so right now I am doing my residency. I am anywhere from delivering babies to operating and taking out uteruses, fibroids, to clinical work, to kind of anything OBGYN entails. So, and that's kind of the process. And of course, there's a lot more details within that process, but that's how I got there. Francis, do you want me to talk about something in particular? Do you want me to answer questions? Where can I go from
You
here?
can answer whatever questions are in the chat for now. Let's do that and go through any. Did you hit them or did you miss? Or are we good? Let's just do the chat.
Let's see, which hospital, what does the age matter if you want to practice nursing? Absolutely not. I don't think age matters anywhere. It's more of a lot of people, like I went straight through. The average age is to get into med school is actually 26. I was 21. So I got in, but people may have other careers beforehand. So it really doesn't matter for med school. So when it comes to nursing, I mean, I have friends who finished nursing at 21 years old and they're full nurses working on all different parts, like either the ED, the ICU, LMD, so like everywhere. So it does not matter what grade. Is it better to apply to both the EO or MD schools if your scores are lower than most? So that's a very important topic. So what is med school and where are they located? There's 3 different types of medical schools. There's a DO, which is I think a doctor of osteopathic medicine, something like that. MD, which is a medical doctor, and then there's also IMG, which is an international medical graduate, whose degrees can be MD, can be MBBS, and they have many different letters that go after the name. When it comes to practicing and basically getting into a residency program, for your top residency programs in the country, majority of them take only MD candidates. So for example, at Northwell, I'm not saying it's the top, but we have one of the largest OB programs in the country. You'll see that we take 12 people per year, so 48 residents total. We have 1 right now that's a DO and 1 right now that's an international student. So that's where they did their medical schools. But that does not mean you cannot be a doctor if you're a DO, because there are many other programs that do take it. So you could still be a doctor, you will still practice the same exact medicine. It just matters where you want to work eventually, or what residency programs you get into. So you always want to strive, but if your end goal is being a doctor, being an MD, DO, we all work together. You don't get any less training from one place or another. We all work together. We all achieve the same goals, especially now because our residencies are combined. But it would be harder statistically to get into your residency programs, especially if they're like the top programs in the sense of specialty. So like neurosurgery, orthopedic surgery, cardiology, those are much harder fields to get into with a DO degree rather than an MD. So that's where it does play a role, but it does not mean you can't. It just would be a more difficult of a path. Let's see. I don't know what else can I answer. Wait, can we choose what we talked about AP courses? Is there any online free classes? Is there any online free classes of high school student? I'm not sure what that question is. Do you know of any some programs that would be beneficial to pursuing a medical career? Well, pursuing a medical career, so summer programs, again, COVID really put a damper on a lot of stuff. So I know that Northwell does have shadowing opportunities. Your local physicians always have shadowing opportunities as well. In college, you have a pre-medical society, and those will get you into research. And I think research becomes a heavy field that will get you closer to medicine, because research really funds our knowledge in medicine. So when you go to college, you really want to be connected with your pre-medical school advisors. You want to work with all your science professors, because they will get you into that research. So I think that's going to be the best way for you to get out there and exposed. Talk to the local doctors in your neighborhood. Reach out, send emails. Don't feel shy or anything like that, because if you want to be a doctor, they somehow became a doctor too, so they know this process. So I think not being shy about and reaching out to them would be the best way to approach it. Let's see. One of the questions I see, if I don't do too bright as a freshman, like 80 plus, I'm guessing that's your grade point average. Can I still come back? Honestly, absolutely. It doesn't mean, just because you screwed up once doesn't mean you can't get in. Like, absolutely not. You just got to show, and they also look at trends. They see if you've improved over time. So I think don't feel discouraged just because initially you didn't start out as strong. Absolutely not. Just want to show improvement and that you're taking the necessary steps, and that goes a long way. Did you take any college now courses in high school? If so, did they count for any credits at Hunter? Frankly, I don't know if we had college now courses, and if they did, I didn't. I took just a lot of AP courses, so I had about 30 credits going into college. Those AP credits really helped, not because, again, like I told you about, it set me up to be better in my actual science classes, but you could use those credits so you don't have to take the other random classes that you need for a bachelor's of arts degree. So like I didn't have to take some reading courses, some writing courses. I didn't take my language courses because I finished all of that in high school. So those are the things that can make your college life easier. What kind of volunteer work did you do when you were in Forest Hills? I mean, for volunteer work, I really just worked. If you guys know it was associated as Key Food now on 108th Street. So I worked there as a waiter, not a waiter. Cashier. There you go. That's what I did there. So that showed I did construction work in the summer. I volunteered in hospitals where I helped with reception work at the pediatric center. I worked for a cardiologist, helped them with paperwork. So I really tried to show that I did multiple different things. I think that was kind of it. And then my law program took a lot of time because I did the mock trial, moot court. I worked in the precinct, so I did a lot of stuff there. Did you take the ACT too or just the SAT? I took both, actually. I took both, but I only sent out my SAT I frankly don't remember my ACT, but I took it because I had the preconception that I needed the ACT for the rest of the country, but I ended up only applying to the Upper East Side, so it doesn't matter. But I think I would ask Queller in a sense because she would know the more up-to-date info on whether or not it's better to take both or just one. I mean, I know like this year SAT was even optional, but I absolutely made my sister take it because she's in high schools, because should only help you if you're studying to get you into college and also on scholarship. What are my thoughts on them being optional? I really just don't think it's optional. Even though they say it's optional, you should take it. If you want to be a better candidate, you want to take it. You want to show that you're committed, that you have a work ethic, that you can study. So I mean, they make it optional for COVID-related reasons, but everyone who is trying to do something or be somebody is taking that test. So I would take it. How many years will it take to become an RN? It matters what kind of RN. There's a bachelor degree RN, there's an associate's, then there's a master's, then you can get a PhD being a nurse. So like it literally matters what you want to do. So you could get you could be like a nursing assistant, then you could be an RN with a bachelor's degree, which is 4 years if you get into the program right away, or like 5 to 6 years if you don't. Then you could become an RN, then you could work and get your master's after you're working, or you could become a nurse anesthetist after career. So there's like a lot of different pathways you can do. At the minimum, it takes 2 years. Majority of nurses try to get a bachelor's degree, which is a total of 4 years, but it can be 4 to 6, I would say, based on the path you take. In undergrad, I did research in, I did like chemotherapy research. So I did really bench work where we created molecules just to see if we could radio tag cancer. And we did that at Hunter, and they had a program with Cornell. So I did that as my research. Extracurriculars, frankly, I worked just to have some financial money of my own. So that was, and that's not gonna hurt you. Like you don't have to go save the world. But you just have to show that you're not just doing nothing. So I had to work just to financially support my family and like everyone else around me. But there's some people who do like mission trips as medical students. There's some people who like just do bench research. And some people who just work, and like those are all fine ways to get into medical school. It doesn't have to be one direct way. Good question. How do you get scholarships? I mean, you apply, you have Google. Honestly, that's huge because every college you apply to have their scholarship programs. You could get a merit-based scholarship, which is just off of grades, and then you could get other sorts of scholarships based on what your interests are. So to get into med school, you also do not need to be a science major. There's many people who major in English and the arts and become engineers. Like, so you could be whatever else you want to be before you apply to medical school, as long as you take all your prerequisites. But for scholarships, like for me, I got a merit-based scholarship based on my grades and SAT scores. So that's how I got it. But then like St. John's offered me money when I applied there, but a lot of it was merit-based. And you work with your high schools and their guidance counselors because they know a lot of these scholarships and the most recent ones that are available to people. So I would talk to them and be very good friends with them. I know some people have like barely even meet their guidance counselor, which is terrible because they can be a great source of information because they know what it takes to get into college and what they're looking for. So to talk about the different careers in medicine and becoming a physician, there's thousands of different routes you can go. But I think I would want everyone to take whatever career they end up doing in any field, but specifically medicine. You got to take it one step at a time. Don't think that you're going to be a neurosurgeon. Think that, wow, that interests me, and always be open to new things. I never thought in my wildest life that I would be a gynecologist when I was in high school. Like that absolutely made zero sense to me in my mind. I didn't even know what that entailed. But I came into med school thinking I was going to be a neurosurgeon or an orthopedic surgeon for a football team. I hated everything and I loved this field. So I would keep a mind open for all of that. A prerequisite is what you need to even apply to their programs. So for example, on here, let me show you. I'm going to post um, a link into the chat. This is like, I mean, obviously everyone knows Harvard. This is Harvard's prerequisites, what you need to take. So if you don't take these courses and you apply to Harvard, they automatically reject your application. And if you guys could all take a look into it, they talk about behavioral sciences, biology, chemistry, physics, and math and writing. Like those are all the requisites. They say you need 1 year of this, 1 year of that, 1 year of this. So if you don't have that and you don't have the lab experience in there, like even if you apply, you're required to do those courses. So that's what a prerequisite is. And then you also need to take the Mcat, and then you also need to take do well in your grades. Interviews, recommendations for interviews, especially right now, if a lot of you are in high schools and are going to be applying to colleges, it's about practice. It's about also being very honest. You don't want to lie on your application about anything. You have to have great social skills, and an interview is them just trying to get to know you just as much as you're trying to get to know them. You just want to learn more about them by asking them questions. Always have questions made up in your mind that are very succinct and thoughtful. But also they're going to ask you, okay, well, let's say you worked on a project. Well, tell me about this project. And you want to know how to explain it. You want to know how to explain it in layman terms, because if you want to become a doctor, you have to explain diagnosis in layman terms. You're not going to be explaining medicine to people who are in medicine most of the time. So that's what they look at. They look at those social skills. They look at you being able to analyze, evaluate, and just be able to really hold a conversation, even if it's something that's not in your comfort zone. Let's see, a teacher told me that you could lie on what you did on your application, but they randomly check, and if they find out, you can get kicked easily. Absolutely. I've seen people get kicked out of med school, and that's $200,000 of loans that you have to pay back, and it's over. Don't ever lie on any application. It's not a game. These are adult things that no one has time for that. Earlier you were talking about surrounding yourself with the right people and focusing. How do you stop yourself from getting distracted with other things in your social life, or balance your social life? I think balance is huge. Being able to balance is not just what you're going to do in college and high school, but also in life. So for example, even in med school, right? I mean, even in residency, right now I work 80-hour shifts. I work 6 to 6, and that's if I end at 6, which you never do. So I really work from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., 5 to 7 days a week. I have a baby at home. I have a wife that still knows that I'm her husband, and I have family members around me that you have to know how to balance. It doesn't get easier. It's just a different challenge everywhere you go. So when I was in high school, I still played football. I still played basketball, but I knew that if I have a test tomorrow, I don't play football and I don't play basketball. I sit down and study. If I have a party or event to go to, I mean, high school, I really wasn't like that, but there's always a time and place for it. So if your event is on Sunday and on Monday you're taking your AP test, you just got to be smart and really know how to delegate, not get sucked into all the pressure of like, oh, everyone's out. Like, who cares if they're out? Like, it really makes no difference, because those people are going to change, and you never know who's going to end up in the place. And if they have the same goals as you, they would appreciate that. So the peer pressure, it's not worth it. And there should be no excuses. No one can make you do something. It's all on you, and you really want to sit down and plan everything out. If medical school and dental school are the same. So they're not. The first 2 years are similar. My wife's a dentist. So I could speak from that experience, because she knows what we've studied. And so my wife's a dentist. And the first 2 years are similar. We have little classes that are different, but you still learn the anatomy and physiology and like the diagnosis. In med school, you do go in a lot more in detail than dental school. But when you're third and fourth year, medical students really do every field other than dentistry or podiatry, but dentists focus on dentistry. So in dental school, I think what's amazing is that you're already in your field, so you really focus on that. So when you finish dental school, if you don't live in New York State, you could technically practice as a full dentist because their last 2 years are specifically focused on dentistry, whereas in med school, it's every career, you don't really come out specialized. So that's the biggest difference between the two. Um, so the first 2 years, there's times where you medical school, and so like in Buffalo, the dental students and the medical students sometimes had classes together the first 2 years. The last 2 years, we basically never saw each other. Completely different. Um, are you concerned regarding the cost of malpractice insurance? No, I know OB is one of the biggest, highest malpractice insurance in the country, but also that's a huge responsibility we have, and we still financially figure it out. So is it high? Absolutely. But I love what I do. So I think financially we'll figure it out because every other physician has. So I'm sure I'll be fine with it. Should I feel pressure if I fully don't know what I want to become? Absolutely not. That's a phenomenal question. You don't need to know that you want to even be a doctor at this point, but you want to know that you at least have goals, that you want to be somebody. I mean, Frances is a lawyer and a business owner. She's not a doctor. I'm a doctor. And the great part is that you keep these connections, because like I know if I have a question about something in law or something in business, because one day I'll open it up, I can always reach out to her and she'll always help me. And if she has something that she needs medically, like she can always reach out to me. These are the connections you make. So even if I wanted to be a lawyer in high school, I became a doctor now. So like, who knows where it's going to go? But the point is your work ethic, and you always want to set yourself up to have options. So my grades were there, my work ethic was there, and I set myself up to get to the point where like, oh, you know what? Now I think I want to take the med school route. And because I had the grades and the determination, I was able to do that. What other undergrad schools did you apply to? Do you not regret applying more? It's a good question. I wish I did apply to more schools, but I am happy that I didn't. I know that sounds weird. I'd love to see what's out there, because now further along in my career, I see there's so many different things out there. And the bigger undergrad programs have a lot of these extracurricular activities, and you could get a lot more involved in the community, a lot more involved in like medical outreach programs. So I think these large programs like, you have Columbia, Ohio State, Florida State, UCLA, like all these big names. The reason why they're big is because they have funding and they're expensive. So good grades get you scholarships, but when these big schools, they do have great opportunities for you. So when you guys ask about, oh, what about my extracurriculars? That's where the big programs go in. Again, can you still get into med school through Hunter? Yes. And I did it. I think it's a little bit harder, but it's not impossible. Which doctor is easiest to be? I don't think that matters. I think becoming a doctor is becoming a doctor. That's hard enough in itself, but if you want to do it, you'll focus on it. And eventually, when you get there and you have to make that decision, you'll make that decision. That shouldn't be something that worries you. Tips for memorizing and retaining information. I will give that question to Dr. or Miss Frances Queller, because all I did was sit down, study, flashcards, repeat. If I think that if you can teach the topic to someone, then you know the information. So just because you're reading a flashcard and trying to memorize the paper is one thing, but if someone asks you, hey, can you explain this to me? And you can explain it to them, that's how I retain it. So I always would speak it out and talk it out loud to make sure that I know how to explain it to someone if asked. Which med school? I went to University of Buffalo for med school. This is a hard question. What goes on your mind when you lose a patient? So as an OB, so there's OB and GYN. GYN, you worry about just the patient, and OB, you worry about the patient and the baby. Unfortunately, it does happen. What goes on through my mind is you always take a step back, reflect, and see where did we go wrong? What could we have done better? Sometimes it's out of your control, but that should never be the first thing you go to. Medicine is not a simple answer. It's not something that you could read on Google and say, I have this and this, what do I have? That's not the way it works. It's a very convoluted thing, and people learn every day something new. So I have tough cases every single week, and I take a step back, I come home. So today I had a case about like cholestasis of pregnancy, whatever. It might not mean much to you guys, but like, and then I come home For 10 minutes, I open up my textbook or my online search for in medicine and I read about it. So the next day, I'm like constantly learning something new. Because you're going to get better, but you're also going to have bad times and bad events. You just got to improve from it. The good thing is that as a resident, you always have support around you. And when you work for large institutions, they can, so if there's an emergency, you're not the one dealing it with yourself. You have physicians around you in your field that are there to support you. It's not like you're a sole ranger unless you're in the middle of nowhere. So what LIJ does, if there's a obstetric emergency, there are multiple people that are there for support. So I think that's huge. To be a medical assistant in a hospital, how many years does it take? I really don't know. Honestly, so I just don't know. Do you have any tips on how to do better in English and history classes? If you're stronger in math and science, I was great in math and science, and I love history. I just can't memorize it all. Do I have? It's just you take more time in what you're worse at, and you sit down. You take longer at it. There's really sometimes just no secret to it. I know people try to find a faster way out. There's no fast way out. It's a lot of work. Does every school have prerequisite courses, and how do you keep up with all of them? If they do, go to their website. If let's say, oh, I want to go to Columbia Medical School, right? You type in Columbia Medical School prerequisites, and that's it. Most of them are the same, but you could just go into their school, type it up in Google, and you see their prerequisites. I'm not sure if you answered, how do you juggle studying, work, maintaining a social life during your time in school? It's difficult. I did kind of go over it, but you just really you plan. It's all about time management. It's every person I've worked with who was a step above me is time management. No matter what, you come home, you have time for your family because that makes you decompress. Then you know that you have to work on something. It's, I don't lay around and watch TV, and if I do, thank God. But I know that if I have something that I need to improve on, I first do that, and if I have the time at the end of my day to watch TV, I do. But usually, I just don't. Definitely not anymore. Do you get paid during residency? You do. Residency varies. Majority of programs, so the minimum is like around 50,000, and the maximum is like around 80,000. But it's not like a full physician pay at all. You're still in learning, but at least you get paid. It's better than med school where you pay them. But it's not enough for you to think that you're driving a Mercedes or anything like that. Like, I want that to be out of everyone's mind. This is not what a doctor is being like. It's really what you do. So for the 80 hours a week I work, and with my salary, technically I get paid about $8 an hour, if you want to break it down mathematically. So if I think of it like that, absolutely not. But every day I work, like today I did three C-sections, 2 vaginal deliveries, and they were all different in itself. One was a very complicated surgery. So it's a learning experience that you'll never get anywhere else. You can recommend taking psych in high school? Yeah, absolutely. Because now you need psych to get into med school, and psych is one of the classes in one of the things that they test on the Mcat. So absolutely. Did scholarship pay for your dorms? I live at home. Can they pay for your dorms? Probably not, unless you get a full ride with dorming. But from my friends that went to private schools who got merit-based scholarships, that doesn't mean that they got covered for dorms. And in some programs, only the freshmen can live in the dorms, and then just everyone else has to live outside of campus. So it matters where you go. Did you have to quit video games? I actually didn't. I played video games and even in med school. So not in residency, but I didn't quit. Again, it's time management. If you were going into psychiatry, what things would you do to help patients? Psychiatry is a very difficult field mentally, but Olivia, I'd love to have that conversation with you because that's a whole other topic. Did you ever watch Grey's Anatomy? No, my wife did. Anything you watch on TV is pretty much not an accurate representation of anything that goes on in medicine. They really try, but it's all cute and games. But when you're working in a hospital and there's a patient's life in front of you, it's not. It's different. It's just very different. Can you tell us about becoming a vet? Is animal medicine a very different route than med school? Actually, becoming a veterinarian is statistically harder than becoming a doctor. So you go to a veterinary school. I know one veterinarian, and there's not many vet schools out there. So that's why it's very difficult. So becoming a vet is, I don't know their prerequisites, but I know that to get into it statistically is just a lot harder. If you would like, I can reach out to a veterinarian and I could always get you in contact. But what I would do, and I know this makes some people very very shy or think it's awkward. Like you see a vet clinic somewhere, go in there and be like, hey, here's my resume, or can I get the business card, and email the person and be like, hey, I'm really excited. I want to learn more. Not even say I want to be a veterinarian unless you do. And be like, hey, I want to do this. Do you mind? Can I shadow? Can I see some things? Can you show me what it's like? And people who've done the process would, I personally think most would take you in and at least just show you a little bit. I don't know any of the top colleges in New York City. Talk to Frances and she will show you every top college in every little corner of the world. So that's a great conversation to have with her. So right now I have more than one homework, but in my head I keep saying it's only one more to go. Go play a video game. Yeah, don't go play a video game. That's it. It's like that. You turn off your Xbox, unplug it, and you just go and study. There's no secret to this. It's just some people can't do it. Would you say becoming a doctor is worth all the hard work, especially for someone who is not sure if they want to pursue the career? Is it for, if you, my God, I am so thankful every day that even though I get, if you want to talk about pay, I get paid by the hour, very little. I love what I do. Again, if you get yourself ready to get into medical school, I would hope that in college you have gotten the opportunity to, like shadow a cardiologist, work at a hospital, see what that setting is like. That's why you want to have these extracurricular activities in medical fields. So before you apply to med school and take on the challenge and also take on those loans, those are things you want to answer before. This doesn't mean you need to know what kind of doctor, because you don't decide what kind of doctor you want to be until you are towards the end of med school, after you've seen all the fields. So if you know that you just want to be a doctor, then I would say in college, get out there and work in those places. What schools can we go to practice medicine? I mean, any medical school. There's plenty of them out there. There are also MD programs that you could get directly into from undergrad. So for example, the Sophie Davis program in New York City, I think now they're connected with City College of New York, but basically it's a combined undergraduate and medical school program that you could look up. So you could Google combined bachelor and MD programs where you don't have to take the Mcat. That's like one of the perks there, and it's a direct route, but that's if you know for sure you want to go. I think in undergrad, I did find out that I wanted to go to med school, and that's why for me it was made more sense to first do undergraduate and see what field I like, and then I applied to med school. If I don't go to a med college, and then so there's no such thing as a medical college. There's just college, and college offers every degree, anything that you want to take in college, any major. So it does not matter what college you go to. It just matters that you take your prerequisites, and majority of colleges offer all the prerequisites. So that's all that matters. You could be a major in art history and apply to medical school. So it doesn't matter. Did you take the Mcat? Yes, I did. I took the Mcat at the end of my third year. So I definitely did it. Is a dentist considered MD or something else? A dentist has, I think it's DDS and DMD. There's doctor of dental surgery, and then there's doctor or dental medical doctor. I don't know what DMD stands for, but it's a different letters, but those are the main ones, DDS and DMD. So they're a different school, they're a different degree, but they're doctor of dentistry. My score for the Mcat, so I took it when it was out of a 45 base system, I got a 34, which was in the 90th percentile. I think it was the 90th percentile. Of course, my English was worse, but you know.
Daniel, I think we're gonna all say thank you to you because you have been going like a torpedo straight for 1 hour. Let's give Daniel a huge thank you. He didn't even eat. He's eating turkey out of a, what is that again? Okay, so turkey out of a plastic container. So I just want to let you know, guys, that he really did this for us. If you guys could please leave a nice review, give him a huge thank you. Thank you so much. Keep going.
I'm gonna write my email in here. I'm gonna write my email in here and you guys can email me and I would love to answer any questions. And I will do my best to get back to everyone. If you guys have questions, I'm always welcome. Just keep in mind, I do work my crazy hour shifts, but I promise you, I will get back to you.
Well, thank you so much for presenting. Ms. Zambrano, Principal of Arts and Business, and I really enjoyed your presentation. I know many of our students are here today. So you're a good example from an immigrant family living in Queens, just like many of our kids in our school. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm always available if you guys have anything else I can help with. I think Forest Hills has paved the path for me, honestly. So I am always willing to help.
I want to just remind everyone of Daniel's like background. Daniel, is your mother a doctor? Is your father a doctor?
No, nobody is.
And your mom and dad they were not born here, right? Am I correct? They're both.
No. I mean, I was born in Uzbekistan, so the whole Bahrain community knows that we were all from there. My mom technically was a psychologist. That's why she got her in child psychology back in Russia. They went to school in Tomsk. And here she became a medical biller. My dad became an accountant here. But when they moved here, I mean, my dad was a pizza delivery driver, for example, and my mom worked in a laundromat. So like it was a hustle, you know, that's just to put it simply. So it's a lot of hard work.
So one more time. So your dad in America was a pizza delivery person,
Yeah,
and your mom was?
That's how we started out. Yeah, that's how we started out.
And then you continued this path and you were figuring your life out. And just to remind everyone, he didn't know what he wanted to do. He just had good work ethic and good drive, right? I mean, what's like your best advice, like for students who are just, you know, figuring their life out right now?
I mean, just simply keep your head down, work hard, don't let the distractions get in the way. This doesn't mean you can't have a life. It's all about balance. If you need help, ask for it. You don't look weak when you ask for help. And I think that's super important because every day I ask for help when I need it. So, and that can go from being a doctor, but also being just a student, be like, look, I don't get this math topic, or I need help with English. Because if you ask now, there's a reason we're all students, you know.
Daniel, thank you so much. And it's really an honor to know you growing up and watching your journey. Really amazing journey. And I'm very fortunate that you know, you went to Queller Prep, but I'm just really lucky that it's really a beautiful thing to maintain the relationship and to watch you grow, and as surreal as it is
Absolutely.
to see family and your own.
Thanks for teaching me.
A million years ago. I want to say thank you to everyone for listening to this. If you could please leave a Google review, I think it would be really helpful, because the webinars, you know, we obviously want to keep working with the schools, and we want to, you know, keep promoting that we run all sorts of events. And Daniel, thank you.
I feel like Frances, you need some credit. She does a lot of great work with the community, and I think that we need more people to go out there and talk about these things, because a lot of immigrant families don't know that, oh, hey, become a doctor. Oh, hey, become a lawyer. Oh, just do this. Like, it's not the way it works, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. You know, that's why if anyone needs guidance or support outside of this, like, I will try my best to do that. But it takes work. So Frances, also thank you for getting these kids involved, because these kids one day will be treating me, my parents, and taking care of me and with my health. So this goes a long way.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. And I mean, I'm a child of immigrants also. I grew up in a 1-bedroom apartment, and there was no cash at all. It was very hard. And you know, and I thank you, Daniel. Thank you so much for adding that, because that's one of the reasons why I opened Queller Prep to begin with. It's everything I didn't know. It's what I didn't know about education. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you guys. I'm gonna end the meeting, and that's kind of it. And I'm putting this.
Hi, this is Effie. Francis, can you tell us about your next event, please, before you get off?
Oh yeah, we're also gonna do a path to law. Hey Daniel, maybe you could listen to that one. We're going to do a
Absolutely.
path to law. We have that one coming up. I'm going to send you the information. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I'm going to send you the Zoom for all the details. And I'm definitely personally sending it out to the leadership team. Thank you, everyone. I'm so happy that we got such a good group together and on short notice. I really, really appreciate it. Daniel, thank you so much for being our future a physician. It's just, my goodness, I keep saying future physician. Can you believe that? I can't get it in my head that you're 14
fine.
or 15 in my head he's 15. Okay. All right. I'm very honored. All right. Enjoy everyone. Okay. Elizabeth Barkov is asking, how many languages do you speak?
I mean, I speak Russian and English and a good amount of Spanglish when needed in an emergency. So
2.5.
basically, yeah,
2.5.
2.5. 2.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. All right. And I'm very proud. Thank you for being our great role model. All right, Daniel. All the
Absolutely.
best. All right.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Take care. Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank you.